Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today for the Art Impressions blog challenge, it's called Scenic Route. So we were asked to create a scene, and the first thing I thought of was a shadow box card. So I'm going to show you that today, and I'll give you all the dimensions and measurements that you need to create one on your own. So let's go ahead and get started. So to start off, we're going to be using the images here from this beautiful set. This creates a beautiful trifold scene. This is the cottage trifold set, but today we're just going to be using the cottage and the little fence there. From this set here, we're going to take this little girl right here down on the bottom left here, and this is from the watercolor little girl set. And then from the Art Impressions Beach Babes set, which I love the name of, we're going to take that sunshine. Now I've placed all these images in my Misty Mini Stamp Positioner, and I'm going to ink them up using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Now those were thick rubber stamps, so to do the sunshine I need to place that mat back in my Misty and stamp that sun. Now with beige, yellow, blue-gray, flesh color, dark pink, and light pink, I'm going to do my coloring on the little girl. And I'm going to start off with the flesh color and the light pink, placing a little light pink on her cheek, and then the flesh color and blending those together. These are the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens, and they are a water-based pen with a fine detailer tip on them. And here I'm just going to add the shadows down towards the bottom, and then I'm pulling up towards the top, and then I'll add a couple little shadows in the folds on her shirt there and up under her shoulder. And again, I'm using the blender pen to do my blending here, and you do want to scribble it on some scrap paper when you're changing colors. So here I've changed to the yellow and the beige, and I'm just adding that beige up under her hairline and pulling that down just to add a little shadow there. And then with the blue-gray, I'm going to do her shorts, and again I'm keeping the color down towards the bottom and pulling up towards the top. Now these Zig Clean Color markers can also be blended out with a water brush as well, but I'm using the blender pen. Now with green, May green, and yellow, I'm going to do the trees. And just to keep this really simple, I'm using yellow right around the edges or the tips of the trees, and then the lighter green, and then I'm coming in with that darker green, kind of where the shadows would be here along the house, and sort of towards the bottom of the tree as well. And then I'm using a circular motion just to try to blend these together. Now, again, I want to keep that highlight right on the edges, so I'm going to come in and add a little bit more yellow and then a little bit more of that darker green for shadowing. So you can keep adding color here. Now with beige and mid-brown, I'm going to be coloring the trunks of the trees. And I'm adding a little shadow up underneath the tree branches there and then pulling in towards the center. I'm going to also use those same two colors to do this little window here and then the trim around the other window. And I'm also using these colors to do the roof. I'm going to apply that lightest color first, then just apply that darker color right along the bottom edge of the roof there and pull those colors up towards the top. And I'm not going to completely blend this out. I kind of wanted to have some little bit of streaks in that roof. Give it a little bit of a thatched roof kind of a look here. Just a real kind of country cottage. And then I'll add a few more little shadows here just to define that little archway a little bit more. Now with pale rose, I'm going to color in the house, and I'm just using the one color here. I'm just going to apply that around the edges and then just kind of keep the center of the house the lightest. And again, to clean off your blender pen, you just want to scribble it onto some scrap paper until it goes clear. Once it's clear, you know it's clean to go to your next color. You can also use the blender to remove color as well. If you get too much color on your image, you can go pull some of that color off and scribble it onto your scrap paper until you get just the right look. Now with the light gray, I'm going to add a little bit here to the door and then come in with that gray color, which is a little bit darker, and add some shadows here. And I'm pulling that up towards the top. And just a little bit of light gray on the shutters. And then again, I'm starting with the light gray for the sidewalk, and I'm going to extend that sidewalk out a little bit. I don't want to cut it off when we place it in the shadow box. I want it to look like it extends out. So just simply draw a little squiggly line on either side with your darker gray and then pull that in towards the center. And you don't need to be fussy there. Anything goes. You just want to extend that out a little bit. And using those same two colors, I'm going to do the little stonework on the chimney. Now with the haze blue, I'm just going to add a little reflection in each of those windows, just off towards the left-hand side. And then with the light gray, I'm going to do the fence. I'm just adding a shadow between each of those little slots on the fence. And then I'm going to blend that out just a little bit. You really don't need to do much here at all. With yellow and orange, I'm going to do the sunshine. I'm starting off with the yellow and pulling that out towards the tips. Then I'm going to add a little bit of that orange, and then I'm going to pull that in towards the middle and then out towards the tips just a little bit. And I've completed coloring all the rest of the foliage in the exact same way I did that tree. And I extended the area by the fence out to the right just a little bit more because we're going to be cutting these down. So I wanted to extend that out just a little bit. So using some detail scissors, I'm going to go ahead and cut these out. And I am going to follow the lines here. So I'm going to go right up to the lines and cut this out. Now I've got everything cut out. You can see all of that there. And on the bottom of the fence there, I just kind of did a wavy line. We'll fix that up a little bit more later on. The next thing we're going to do is cut 2 pieces of cardstock at 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. And I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. So I've placed my paper in my scoreboard on the 5 3/4 side up at the top there. And then I'm going to score this at 1/4 of an inch and 1 1/2 inches. So what that will do is leave the rest of the paper there will measure 4 1/4 inches. And you can see that there. So I'm going to do the same thing with this next one. I'm going to score it at 1/4 inch and 1 1/2 inches. Now that I've got those 2 panels all set, I can go ahead and press out those folds. So I'm using my bone folder just to make sure I press everything out really nicely. And you can see that there. And then for these little tabs on the end, I'm just going to cut a little bit of an angle there, just so that when I put this together, it will fit together nicely. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And then again on this little 1/4 inch side, I'm just going to cut away that little edge there just to create a little tab. So now that I have those two all set, I want to create an opening in the front of the shadow box. So I'm going to use the 4th largest die from this set and the largest die Now, these are the rounded rectangle double stitch dies from Art Impressions. So for that smaller one, I'm going to center it on the front panel of my card. And then for this larger one, I'm just going to go ahead and die cut that out of some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. So now you can see I've cut that opening out, but I also get that beautiful stitched edge around the opening as well. So that's the front, and now you'll see how that's going to fit together. Now this other panel also has that double stitching on it, so I'm going to cut one side at 1 inch and one side at 1.5 inches. So I'm using my Tim Holtz paper trimmer, and I'm going to go ahead and again cut one of these at 1 inch, and I'm going to cut the second one at 1.5 inches. And those are going to create the grassy borders for the inside of our shadow box. So now I just want to cut this down to 4 3/4 inches. So I'm just going to trim off about 1/4 inch from each side and just double checking there to make sure the final panel measures 4 3/4 inches. So again, just trimming off each side to that 4 3/4 inch mark. Now I can go ahead and score these. So I'm going to place these back in my scoreboard here, and I'm going to just score these at 1/4 of an inch on each side. I'm going to do that for both of these panels. So that'll create a little tab here. So I'm just folding that over, and the top is already angled, so I don't need to cut that. So I'm just going to trim the bottom section there. And again, you can see that's angled, so I'm just going to trim that piece off there. I'm going to do the same thing for the 1.5 inch panel, just trimming those down. So that's going to give a nice stitch border at the top of our little grassy borders here. And you can see how that will fit inside our shadow box. To color in these panels, I'm using Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn, and these are the Distress Oxide inks. And I'm going to apply the Twisted Citron all over, and then just apply a little bit of the Mowed Lawn right at the very top here. And then I'm going to blend that out. And you can just keep adding color here till you get the right amount of shadowing. I'm going to do that for both panels. Now, here with our shadow, these are how these little panels are going to fit behind the shadow box here. So I need a grassy border at the bottom on the front of my card. So I'm going to take some purple tape here, and I'm just going to tape this down right at the very bottom of that opening on the card, and that'll create my straight line that I need. So here I'm going to mask off the side of the card as well. So right along that score line, I'm going to put some purple tape there as well. Now I can create a little grassy border down here at the bottom. And I'm using the same technique, starting with the lighter color, just adding the shadows along the top here and kind of pulling it down, and then going back and blending that out with the lighter color. I'm going to clean that off with a baby wipe here just to make sure I keep my area nice and clean. And now I'm going to remove the purple tape. I'm going to heat set this panel very quickly because I want to use the purple tape again, and I want to make sure that it does stick. So I'm applying some again along that side panel, and now I'm going to cover that grassy border. And I'm going to leave just a little tiny bit of that grassy border showing, just so the two, the sky and the bottom, blend together well here. So now using Squeezed Lemonade, I just want to create that little area where the sunshine is going to be. So I want to make that kind of a bright yellow here. Then I'm coming in with Peacock Feathers and Chipped Sapphire. I'm going to do the rest of the sky. I'm using that Peacock Feathers, and I'm starting kind of at the bottom here and pulling up. I'm going to create a little shadow here down at the bottom of the sky. So I'm just kind of pulling up towards the yellow. I'm not going to blend those too much together, just a little bit there. And then with the Chipped Sapphire, I'm going to create that little shadow down here at the bottom. And with the Peacock Feather, I'm just going to blend that together a little bit better here. And now I'm going to remove my purple tape, and you can see that beautiful sky that we have. So here again, this is how our shadow box is coming together. So I want to do the sky for the back panel. So I cut a piece of Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, 4 1/8 by 4 1/8, and I'm starting with the peacock feathers all over. And I just want that grassy border just to see about where I want to start my shadow for the sky. So that was the 1.5 inch panel. So I'm going to go just above that a little bit and just start blending that up towards the top. Back to the peacock feathers just to continue blending that together. So you can see that there. So now that's going to fit on the back panel of our card. Now I went ahead and took some 1/4 inch score tape and I've placed it on one of those tabs. Now what I'm going to do is line these two panels together and tape that down. So that's going to create the portion of the shadow box here. But I don't want to attach everything together yet. What I'm going to do now is place another piece of 1/4 inch score tape on the other tab. And you do want to use a nice strong adhesive here. I'm pressing that down with my bone folder. Now, I want to place my grassy borders inside this card before I attach everything. So I'm going to place the 1/4 inch score tape on each side, on each tab on these two grassy borders. So I'm going to place tape on each side here. Now for this first one, which is the 1 inch panel, I'm going to line that up at the very bottom of my card here. I'm removing the tape from just one side and I'm going to line that up. I'm coming in about 1/4 inch from that score line there, so you can see that there. And lining it up right along the bottom of my card. Now for this 1.5 inch panel, I'm going to go back from that one just a little bit more than 1/4 inch. You can just adjust that as you want to here. Anywhere is fine. I just want to space those out just a little bit here. So now lining those up right along the bottom edge of my shadow box, I'm going to remove the tape from these two. Then I'm just going to fold that panel over and that'll pick up those two tabs. Now I'm removing the tape from that larger tab there. And now I can close the card and attach everything together here. So I'm just taking a little time to line that up, pressing it out with my bone folder, and now you can see we've created this beautiful little shadow box. And it will open or close either way, so you can lay it flat. And that front of the card measures 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. Now we've got our 4 1/8 by 4 1/8 inch panel, and we're going to slide that right in. And the reason I waited to put that in is because I want to cover that little tab in the back. So I'm just sliding it in, and I am lining it up with the very top there of my card, and I'm just pressing that into place with my bone folder. So now you can see we have the base of the shadow box complete here. Now for my little images, I'm going to be attaching them with the Gina K Connect Glue. And I don't want to put glue all over. I just want it where I'm attaching it to that grassy border. So I'm just going to apply my glue. And here I'm just taking a little bit of that green ink and putting it right along those edges just to take away that white edge. Now I'm going to position that in. And again, I just want to line that up in the center of that shadow box. And now for this piece here, I'm going to add a little bit more green at the bottom there just to finish that off. Again, only adding glue at the bottom of this little piece here. I'm just spreading that out with my finger, and then I'm going to center that again in that opening. And now I'm just going to press that down as well. Now for the little girl, I did want to pop her up. So I'm going to add some foam mounting tape, and I'm just going to place it along the bottom of her because I don't want any in the opening of our shadow box. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that squeezed lemonade around the edges of my sun here just to take away that white edge. And then I'm popping that up also with some foam mounting tape. Now with my Uniball white gel pen, I'm just going to add some highlights here. And you can add these wherever you like. It just adds a little bit of interest here. I'm adding a little bit to the stonework on the cottage as well. So now using the Art Impression His and Her Flying High stamp set, I'm going to grab that cloud. I'm going to stamp 2 of these. I just decided that the sky needed a little more brightness. So I'm using the haze blue, and I'm just going to blend a little bit of that haze blue into the clouds just to give a little shadow here. I'm going to cut these with my detail scissors right along the stamped line there. And then I'm placing these in the background, and you can see that brightens up the background a little bit here. So I've gone ahead and attached those 2 clouds. Now for a sentiment, I'm using the trifold set here, this beautiful set. And this sentiment says, "May rays of sunlight warm your heart." And I thought that was perfect for this card. And this is the Garden Trifold set. So going back to that leftover piece that we had where we cut the grassy borders from, that still has that stitched edge along the left side here. So I'm going to stamp my sentiment just so I get that little stitched edge there. And then I'm going to cut this. I cut into the center a little bit and then cut in from each side to create a little banner here. So again, that'll have a little stitched edge on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to apply some glue just to the top and side here and just slide that down into that opening just a little bit. So let me give you a closer look at the finished card. And this card, when it lays flat, will measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, the exact same size as a standard A2 size card. So I did design it with that in mind. And I want to show you here that it does fit in a standard envelope. Now we do have a little bit of dimension here, so you want to be careful when you slide it in there. And also how much dimension you add, but it fits in there fine. And you could also stamp another sentiment on the back of the card here. And you could do that before you put it together or sign back there as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.